How long do you think it took when they were shooting the scene for them to realize that they were going to have to go back in and ADR the entire thing? We talked a lot about the scene from the season 3 of The Summer I Turned Pretty, but the one thing I noticed the second time was more so about the filming of it, because if you're watching the wind and you're watching the waves crash and you're watching all of the little things, what you start to realize is there's very little chance that they were actually able to sustain the sound in this. In a scene like this that has 4 to 5 running minutes, that was shot with a couple of different angles. We've got all of the setups when they're in the lighthouse, then we've got how we're shooting when we kind of come down. We don't have a lot of wiggle room to work with how we're moving the camera in a bunch of places. We're not going to have an insane amount of lighting setups, so we're kind of compressed in terms of how we're getting the shot, but we're still dealing with the humidity, and Lola has thick hair, may or may not hold a curl well, but if you've dealt with any humidity, you know that that's going to present a challenge for hair and makeup. Sound is probably fighting for their life for the fact that those waves are crashing in a way that they just can't escape. In reality, this is a night scene, so likely they either started their call time later in the day and went into the nighttime to shoot this, because in order to maintain the continuity, this is going to probably take them a good 5 hours, a good 5 to 8 hours to shoot all of this after they've reset, after they've kind of dealt with all of the little nitpicks that come with this, after they've made sure that everybody has a break, depending on how cold it is, how hot it is, whatever else they're navigating. You're limited to the window of shooting at night. So either you're going in a little bit later to make sure that you have all of the night to shoot this, which means you've got to call time at like 6 p.m. to get everybody in hair and makeup, to get everybody on the beach prepped to shoot by 7:30 or 8 when the sun's completely down, and then you're limited to the time in which the sun is down to shoot this. But regardless of giving it everything, the thing that's probably in the back of your mind is none of the sound is going to work for this. There might have been some things that they got, but for a lot of it, it just means they have to give it everything, and then they're going to have to go back into the studio and to voice match what they did before. The other thing I kept thinking about in this is the camera operator, because the way they shot this scene was done with the intention to make sure that we maintained kind of the intensity of it. We're not setting up the camera anywhere. We've got movement. We're also going from one person to the other while we're still in the scene, so we're not cutting in that aspect, which means our poor camera operator has probably got sand all in their shoes, lifting whatever weight they've got on top of them to hold this camera in frame, and they're having to maneuver, and it's just awkward and uncomfortable, and they're killing it. These are things when you're watching you think, yeah, they're crushing the scene. But then you stop to think about how long they emotionally had to stay in that space, how they potentially brought themselves in and out of it, how they kind of had to operate in the headspace of such intensity for what journey they were going on, for all of the pain that Belly's kind of bringing from the past into this, for all of the emotional vulnerability that Conrad's kind of bringing into this. Lola and Chris killed it, and then they had to take all of that with the knowledge that they were going to have to come back to it again at a later date.